Hello and welcome to another episode of The Really Show, where we report on funny, weird, and interesting things we find online. I'm your host, Aaron Ross. Today's show, the Flag Pledge Surprise. The origins of the first American flag are a mystery? From an article on How Stuff Works, we learn that no one knows with absolute certainty who designed or made the first American flag. But it seems plausible that Congressman Francis Hopkinson designed the first American flag, with few historians believing Betsy Ross actually made the first flag. It is a popular belief that George Washington and George Ross, a relative of Betsy's, visited her in 1776, and she was assigned the task of weaving the first American flag from a drawing that George Washington gave her. Following this, she got to weave what is now the famous American flag. Despite a lack of credible evidence to support this, Betsy Ross remains an important icon in American history. Not many Americans knew of this story until a century later, when Ross's grandson, William Canby, told of this account between her and Washington during a speech Canby gave on the history of the American flag. There's no concrete evidence for Betsy Ross actually designing or sewing the first American flag. Although she did receive payment on May 29, 1777 from the Pennsylvania State Navy Board for her work making American flags. Though it shows she had a role to play, it doesn't mean she wove the first flag or had a role in its design. It is also more likely that Francis Hopkinson deserves credit for designing the first American flag. Hopkinson has some impressive credentials. He was a writer, a lawyer, a poet, and had a significant role in designing several important symbols for the United States. He represented New York in the Continental Congress and was also one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. In addition, what helps give credence to this possibility is that in 1780 he wrote a letter to the Board of Admiralty claiming he designed the American flag and asked for payment. Even so, these are vague references, and we will probably never know for sure if or how they contributed to the design of the first American flag. What's with the Pledge of Allegiance? According to historyofthepledge.com and todayifoundout.com, in 1892 the United States suffered from a lack of patriotism. This was due in part to poor economic conditions and the continuing recovery from the Civil War of only 30 years prior. Daniel Sharp Ford, the owner of a magazine called Youth's Companion, was very concerned about this loss of patriotism and decided something should be done to boost morale for the country. He started by asking Francis Bellamy, a minister and one of his authors, to write a Pledge of Allegiance to the flag in hopes it would give patriotism a boost. They decided the best place to start was with the kids. So, the pledge was published in Daniel Sharp Ford's magazine, and classrooms were chosen as the target. Accordingly, Youth's Companion began to sell flags at cost to public schools. The pledge became popular, and people started reciting it while looking at the flag. In addition, a salute was added later and became known as the Bellamy Salute. This salute had individuals extend their right arm forward, slightly raised, with fingers straight. However, during World War II, many realized that the Bellamy Salute closely resembled that of the Nazi salute, and because of this, Congress passed a decree to modify the salute. Accordingly, the Pledge of Allegiance salute was to be rendered by standing with right hand over the heart. The decree was passed on December 22, 1942. Francis Bellamy's original version of the Pledge of Allegiance has had a couple of revisions made to it over the years. In its original form, the pledge read, "I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." In 1923, the wording "my flag" was changed to "the flag of the United States." This was in large part due to the influence of the American Legion. In 1924, the National Flag Conference added the words "of America." In 1954, the words "under God" were added to the pledge. This, of course, was in response to godless communism and a 3-year campaign by the Knights of Columbus, leading to President Eisenhower signing a congressional resolution to make the change. Thanks again for watching. I'm Aaron Ross. See you next time.